I have a passion that is with me always, and with it I have learned to cry, to laugh, to feel, to love, to live. This limitless passion that fills me every day is none other than opera. A passion where I have always found the answer I seek. A passion that has given me everything, and one that I need and want to share with all of you, because opera is life, and sharing is the best there is. For all of you who have stared down a blank page, for you who have known failure and yet you still believe in putting in the effort and, above all, exceeding, this is your opera, the story of a great success turned personal failure. Turandot by Giacomo Puccini is a fascinating opera, the Italian composer's most cutting-edge of all, with pioneering music and one of the world's most famous arias, Nessun Dorma, an absolute hit with critics and audiences alike. But Turandot is also an unfinished opera. Puccini couldn't complete it, and it was another composer, Franco Alfano, who had to do so after his death. But why would one of the greatest composers of all time be unable to finish his last opera? The story you're about to hear is the story of an absolute hit that, at the same time, is the story of a failure, the story of Puccini's personal failure. Puccini is neither the first nor the last great artist to pass on, leaving a work half-finished. Mozart led his famous Requiem unfinished. Jimi Hendrix died before finishing his first solo album. The Other Side of the Wind by Orson Welles was halfway through filming. The same thing happened with Bruce Lee years later. All of them died before they could finish their works. Puccini's case is a little bit different. Death didn't come knocking on his door in the middle of his creative process. In order to understand what happened, we've got to start at the beginning. So let's go to a very, very special place. Why does Puccini choose the story of Turandot, of a cruel Chinese princess who kills all of her suitors? The story of this icy princess is at the other end of Puccini's spectrum, as La Bohème, Tosca, or Madame Butterfly. Puccini would choose dramas featuring very real characters, but with Turandot, everything changes. Why is that? Puccini was always great with doubts when choosing the subject of his operas. He searched high and low and had a hard time to coming to a decision. He drove his librettist crazy. You see, all these books here, Puccini tried to create an opera out of each one of them. In some cases, he succeeded. In many others, he didn't. But let's focus on Turandot. Puccini and his librettists were working on an adaptation of this book, Oliver Twist, when the composer changed his mind. He said he wanted to tentar bien non battute, to try something new, something different. So he decided to tell this story, the tale of Turandot, a frigid woman, a woman incapable of love. Puccini wanted to leave his mark, but he was aware that history would judge him based on his works. Somehow, Puccini knew, or at least suspected, that 100 years later, there would be TV shows like this one talking about him and his works, and that must have really laid the pressure on him. Puccini would definitely have breathed a sigh of relief, saying that almost 100 years later, his Turandot is an opera that is still beloved by audiences. An opera with the power to immediately transport us to a distant world, to the world of Imperial China. How does Puccini get the music in Turandot to transport us to the Far East? Puccini was a Verismo composer. He wanted what he wrote to be the most authentic possible, the most believable. To get an Asian sound, he documented as he always did, and he nailed it. He managed to create an Asian effect without losing his own identity. Listen to this fragment. But please, Alan, don't show my fingers yet. First, I want you all to listen to this. Listen. Puccini knew an incredibly effective way to create an Asian atmosphere. Do you want to know the trick? Don't you? Okay, Alan. Now you can show them my fingers. Do you see? If you only play the black keys, it sounds Oriental to us. It's not that Oriental music is only played on the black keys. It's just an effect. It's the way Puccini discovered that Western audiences would believe they were listening to something exotic and Oriental. But there is much more behind Turandot's Oriental sonority, the bitonality. Listen to this. Do you see? If you play one tonality with the right hand and with the other, another one, a different one, you create an unreal and magical atmosphere. Between this tonality and this other one, there is only one semitone of difference. It's just enough to fill the music with the exotic character of Turandot from the very first notes. But the most incredible thing of all is that Puccini managed all this without sacrificing his personal style. You'll see. Listen to this fragment. We're listening to one of the most clear-cut examples of what Puccini's music is. Music that goes straight to the heart. It's so emotional that, you'll see, let's do a test. Close your eyes just for a second. Listen. What does this remind you of? Don't you feel like you are in a movie? Fernando, ¿cómo es posible que la música de Puccini nos suene a cine? A mí me suena directamente a cine.
Porque es especialmente hábil explicando cosas que no se pueden explicar con palabras, pero que todos entendemos, como el amor, la desesperación, la fascinación, lo épico, porque conoce muy bien el lenguaje, musical y el lenguaje humano, conoce a las personas y sabe lo que sienten y sabe cómo eso se traslada a la música, que al fin y al cabo es como otro lenguaje más con el cual tú construyes frases, construyes historias, pero utilizas palabras y utilizas una gramática que todo el mundo entiende.
Puccini sería como el primero que es capaz como de hablar directamente al corazón de las personas.
Estoy pensando que a Wagner no le gustaría oír lo que estás diciendo.
Lo sé, pero Puccini es como si nos hablara de tristeza y suenan 2 notas de Puccini y estamos tristes.
Bueno, piensa que lo tenemos metidísimo en el inconsciente ya. Por eso nos suena eso. Quizá a alguien de un país oriental muy lejano, lo único que le suene algo familiar sea Turandot, precisamente.
Bueno, porque Turandot intenta coger esta armonía oriental, que no sé
Claro.
si es de verdad o no oriental, pero a nosotros nos suena oriental, ¿no?
Claro, precisamente porque está utilizando el cliché, que cuando se dice cliché parece que es algo malo y es algo estupendo. Si gracias a eso nuestro corazón viaja a China, pues ole por Puccini que lo utiliza.
Porque tú dices los clichés. Existe clichés de música.
Hay una serie de ¿cómo se pueden llamar? De hechos musicales que en nuestra cabeza están relacionados con. Por ejemplo, en retóricas, ¿no? Que es algo que... Esto, tú le preguntas ahora al público, ¿esto a qué te ha sonado? Haz un gesto y todo el mundo haría así.
Se iría...
Como que se va. Pero se va hacia arriba, no se va hacia abajo. Nadie hace con esta música el gesto hacia abajo. Nadie. ¿Por qué? Porque tenemos asociado agudo arriba, grave abajo. ¿Por qué? No hay ninguna razón física para eso. No hay ninguna razón física, lo tenemos en la cabeza. Entonces eso crea una manera de comunicarlo. Lo mismo ocurre pues, con la consonancia y la disonancia.
¿Cómo sería? ¿Podemos hacer?
Bueno, la música pues, es muy fácil.
Cualquier cosa.
Si tocas cualquier cosa y son teclas blancas, suena naturaleza quieta. Si tocas pocas, claro. Esto, vamos, lo sabe todo el mundo, ¿no? Esto suena no lo sé, cada uno dice, pero esto es un momento de lluvia, un momento de paz.
Si tocamos una música de persecución...
Si lo que queremos es enfatizar la persecución, hay que hacer un ostinato loco. Son todo obviedades.
Todos estos clichés que no tienen que verse de un modo negativo, es el lenguaje que nosotros entendemos para asociar las emociones.
Es magia. Es una suerte porque es mágico cómo funciona, ¿no? Y cómo podemos transmitir sentimientos que ni siquiera son nuestros a otros.
Giacomo Puccini wrote just 10 operas over the course of his life, but practically all of them were big hits. Upon his death, the composer left his wife and son a fortune that, translated into today's money, would be about 180 million euros. Nobody had ever made so much money for so few works. If we were to divide the money earned by the number of operas, the result would be the highest ratio in the history of music. Puccini was a true opera star. Here in Milan, Puccini studied music, and years later many of his operas premiered here. Puccini was a very elegant man, a true gentleman. I would bet you that in today's Milan, the Milan of fashion, where just to walk around the block will tell you that everyone here knows how to dress, I'm betting that Puccini would fit right in. That's why I'm going to tell you what Turandot is about through fashion. In the original tale, the story of Turandot had 2 protagonists, Calaf and Turandot. Calaf is an arrogant prince who falls in love with Turandot at first sight and risks his life. For her, Turandot is cold and distant, the frigid woman. Puccini is not used to a character like this. She's far from the type of woman he's written in his previous opera. Puccini doesn't know how to approach her because Puccini always needs flesh and blood characters. That's why he creates Leo. Puccini asks his librettist to add a new character, a slave who is secretly in love with Calaf, a woman who adheres his golden rule. Great sorrows
in little souls.
Lewis Mimi from La Bohème, Lewis Tosca, Lewis Madame Butterfly, Lewis Manon Lescaut, Lewis, the real woman, the character that Puccini knows because she is the one that he has been creating his entire life, a character you can help falling in love with. In the end, the supporting character overpowers the lead. How could you not fall in love with Leo when she says things like this when she first appears? Leo sounds warm and familiar, just the opposite of Turandot. And this can be seen in Puccini's music. Look, on the one hand, we got Leo, who's played in the tonality of G flat minor. Listen. See that? It's a tonality that sounds warm and friendly. Let me play you another sample in the same tonality. This is one of the impromptus by Schubert. See that? It's the same musical hue, the same atmosphere. Warm, moving, familiar. But then Turandot is a whole other world. The inaccessible woman, where Leo is warm like the sun, Turandot is cold like the moon. Her music sounds harsh and unforgiving. Listen.
Puccini gives Turandot harsh music. He makes it sound like a funeral march, which makes sense because she's linked to death. But why is she so cold and cruel over the memory of another princess, her grandmother who was raped by a foreigner? No one will ever have me, she says. All men are taken by her beauty. Any prince of royal blood who wishes to marry her will have to solve 3 riddles, 3 impossible riddles. If they get it wrong, they die. At the star of the opera, no one has managed to give the right answers. Do you want to try your luck? Do you? Yeah? Here they are. Focus now, because if you get it wrong, you get beheaded. Riddle number 1. The whole world invokes and implores it, but it vanishes with the dawn. Every night it is reborn, and every morning it dies. Riddle number 2. If you lose heart or die, it turns cold. You hear its voice in trepidation, and it glows like the setting sun. Riddle number 3. It is ice that sets you aflame, and with your flame freezes even more. If it frees you, it makes you a slave, and if it accepts you as a slave, it makes you a king. The cold princess will kill you in the blink of an eye for not knowing the answers, but we're just going to reveal them. Hope, blood, and Turandot. Turandot is a hard character for any soprano, very demanding and extremely difficult. To play Turandot, you've got to have a voice like a Ferrari. Puccini was crazy for engines. He loved cars and speed. He had some of the most luxurious and powerful cars of his time. Puccini loved living life. His operas were hits and raked him in enough money to live very, very, very well. He was not only an artist concerned about his art, he was also a bon vivant. Puccini would have gone nuts over Formula One, no doubt about it. He even road raced with his friends all over Europe. And now, Formula One is going to help us understand how the voice of a soprano, who has to sing the very demanding character of Turandot, works.
Caro Ramon, i piloti li abbiamo già, e poi vestito così sulla Formula 1 sarebbe difficile.
È una giacca in onore alla Ferrari.
Bravo.
Stavo facendo il programma sulla Turandot e pensavo, ho sempre una ossessione in testa, che la Turandot è un po', quella voce del soprano della Turandot è un po' come un motore della Ferrari. Fa anche musica la Ferrari.
È una grande musica. Purtroppo quest'anno il regolamento della Formula 1 è cambiato e la musica è più da baritono, da basso che da soprano. I 12 cilindri erano davvero da soprano, con questo giri che salivano e quindi...
Era proprio il motore che cantava.
Il motore che cantava.
Allora, questo cambio di marcia che ha la Ferrari, che non è un cambio con la palanca, come funziona? Con le leve?
Con 2 leve, è molto facile. Con la destra si sale...
Si va agli acuti?
E con la sinistra...
Che è proprio quello che fa la Turandot.
Esatto.
Con quest'aria del secondo atto, in questa reggia, deve andare su e giù, e su e giù, ma molto, 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 molto veloce. È proprio quello che fa il cambio di marcia della Ferrari.
Che fanno i piloti soprattutto quando ci sono dei cambi importanti di situazioni di pista, quindi scalare rapidamente e salire rapidamente. E soprattutto l'escursione era una delle cose che rappresentava la difficoltà per un pilota, perché non potevi andare troppo basso per evitare di andare sotto coppia, quindi col motore che poi non spingeva più, né troppo alto perché altrimenti il motore avrebbe potuto rompersi. E io credo che un soprano sia nella stessa situazione. Quando va troppo alta rischia di non avere più la voce, se va troppo bassa non è più un soprano. Quindi c'è una coerenza.
C'è una coerenza. Allora, come facciamo per provare tutto questo che diciamo?
Lì il pilota c'è già. Però se Ramon ha il coraggio... Veramente?
Penso di sì.
Allora c'è un simulatore. Possiamo andare al simulatore
Andiamo.
a vedere come se la cava
Andiamo.
per far salire la musica o scendere la voce?
Well, I'm already in the simulator, ready to drive while listening in questa reggia, Turandot's aria. This is the idea. I will try to adjust the speed of the car of the simulator to the music. That means a high note of the soprano will be the highest speed possible and a low note of the soprano will be the lowest speed possible. Got it? Okay, let's go.
Very, very few sopranos have the right voice to play Princess Turandot. One of them is the Russian soprano Maria Guleghina, who is in Munich right now. So we have come all the way to the Bavarian capital to speak with her.
Come ti senti sapendo che tu sei delle poche persone, delle poche soprani nel mondo che possono cantare adesso il ruolo della Turandot?
Oddio.
Perché così?
Sì, ma meglio non pensare. E appena il tuo naso va su e qualcuno già passa avanti.
Passa avanti. Perché è così difficile cantare questo ruolo?
Ma Puccini è sempre difficile, diciamo. Ogni ruolo di Verdi, di Puccini, sempre vuole una voce giusta.
E come deve essere questa voce?
Diciamo questa voce che con motore potente. Diciamo se abbiamo Ferrari
Sì.
e siamo fuori. Se abbiamo un economic class
Sì.
si dice e via. È lo stesso. Cantare Turandot non devi assolutamente pensare di oddio cosa succede domani, perché Turandot non canta. Lei canta come principessa di gelo, principessa di morte. Lei canta così, pigliato, con voce, come dire, come il lama.
Ma come riesci a fare questo? Perché sei una donna, diciamo, di fuoco,
Sì.
sei una donna molto passionale, penso, ma invece la Turandot è una donna di gelo, una donna frigida.
Sì, ma lei frigida, ma dentro c'è un vulcano,
C'è un fuoco.
c'è l'inferno proprio.
Quando arriva questa parte finale dell'aria, mai nessun m'avrà, che
Ma
ci sono,
questo è già una cosa mai nessuno...
ma ci sono delle note molto estreme, delle note acutissime.
No, bello, bello.
E poi delle note che vanno su e giù e
No,
su e
ma
giù.
io godo sempre questo momento perché anche come in Aida mi piace quando io copro il coro e orchestra e tutti i tubi, tutti i valtorni. Questo mi piace.
Ti piace coprire
Sì,
tutti?
sì, perché normalmente quando io canto con qualcuno io devo un po', se c'è duetto, io sempre devo un po'
abbassare la
Sì,
voce.
sì, sì.
Allora ti piace proprio scatenarti.
Sì, sì, proprio
scatenarti e accelerare questa
accelerare,
Ferrari.
sì.
Ricordi quando è la prima volta che hai fatto la Turandot?
Certo, a Valencia.
A Valencia.
Sì, a Valencia. In 2008 ho fatto con Grande Zubin e Cencaiglia.
2008 sono già 6-7 anni.
Sì.
6-7 anni. 7 anni cantando Turandot. Quanto tempo si può cantare Turandot?
Tutta la vita se la voce è giusta.
Ma pensi che c'è la gente che dice, bene, guarda che questi ruoli sono molto pesanti, anche se hai la voce giusta, la voce si potrebbe rovinare. Pensi così? No.
Io posso cantare tutti i giorni.
Allora come possiamo spiegare che ci sono delle pochissime soprani che facciano il ruolo da Turandot?
La grande Birgit Nilsson. Lei diceva che Wagner fatto lei conosciuta e Turandot fatto lei ricca.
If the role of the soprano is demanding, the tenor's is no less. The character of Calaf is also rigid and arrogant, and together they star in a true duel of voices. This is one of the highlights of the opera. It is extremely intense, but there is more.
Each one of Puccini's opera has its hit song. In Turandot, as you know, it's Nessun Dorma, the aria you have been waiting to hear since the beginning of the show. This one. he's composing, Puccini knows he's got a hit. He knows that people are going to love it. So, what does he do? He holds it off.
We are at the end of the second act. Calaf is singing his grand theme, but it is just an appetizer. He leaves the audience hungering for more. If we were to translate this to the language of film, Puccini gives us a teaser of his big hit.
Nessun Dorma is an extraordinary, gorgeous aria that is much more than this. With this aria, Puccini defines Calaf, a man capable of turning anything in the way of his desires into a stepping stone. A winner who can handle with impossible challenges. Maybe that's why Puccini wrote Nessun Dorma in D major, the tonality that's been associated with victory ever since 1824, when Beethoven composed this. His Ode to Joy. For example, think about the fact that D major is the tonality of another winner, My Way.
Just like My Way or Beethoven's Ninth, Calaf sings his smash hit in D major because it's the tonality of his victory.
Qué maravilla, ¿no, Fernando?
Así es.
¿Tú crees que Puccini, cuando escribió esto, sabía que tenía un hit?
Hombre, yo espero que se quedara muy feliz, no solo pensando en el éxito que tendría, sino en lo bonito que era lo que había encontrado, ¿no?
¿Cómo se consigue llegar a un hit? Hay también una fórmula, hay muchas horas de trabajo, mucho conocimiento, la inspiración llega. ¿Cómo funciona?
Has dicho tres cosas que son importantes y que no garantizan absolutamente nada.
Pues vaya, hombre, pues sí que estamos arreglados.
Claro, hombre, todas tienen esas ideas que son catchy, como dicen en inglés, ¿no? Que algo que se repite para que tu cerebro lo identifique y lo desee. Porque sabes, sé que va a hacer el ritmito este. Podríamos seguir, ¿no?
Lo estás como esperando.
Claro, pero esa es la inteligencia del compositor.
Todo esto empieza con una cosa que aterraba a Puccini, que es una página en blanco, un pentagrama, 5 líneas y nada más. ¿Mucho miedo delante del pentagrama?
Depende del momento y del tiempo que quede para entregarlo. En el caso de escribir para alguien, supongo, no sé, no recuerdo si Puccini tenía que escribir Turandot para una fecha concreta porque se tenía que estrenar, ¿no? Entonces, en ese caso seguramente sería más el reto de decir, ¿seré capaz de hacer esta cosa que en mi cabeza solo es una idea? ¿Seré capaz de conseguir que esa idea tenga forma? Muchas veces, estoy seguro de que le pasaría a Puccini, tengo esta idea, voy a trabajar en ella. Y entonces está haciendo A, pero quiere que A sea B. Entonces se pasa la vida intentando transformar A en B, hasta que de repente un día dice, pues voy a hacer B directamente. No, eso es una cuestión creativa muy, muy elemental, pero igual me estoy volviendo loco intentando transformar una cosa en algo que no es. Voy a empezar por lo que tiene que ser. Y lo más importante es el ponerse a hacerlo. ¿no? Y no tener miedo y empezar a disparar como loco, en el buen sentido. Voy a hacer algo, ya saldrá.
¿Cuál es el mejor modo de vencer ese abismo?
Yo creo que hay uno que es la confianza y saber que al final saldrá, y si no tiene que salir es porque no tiene que salir. Y otra cosa que yo hago mucho es pasear o meterse en un tren o en un autobús. Es la pera. El cuerpo en movimiento, el cerebro que ve cosas que se mueven y el cerebro que se mueve tiene ideas que se mueven. Y es un buen punto de partida. Y sé que a grandes compositores, pues Brahms paseaba todos los días. Beethoven paseaba como loco.
O sea, que si un día te encuentro en un tren, es que estás pensando. ¿Cómo podríamos trasladar o intentar explicar el momento en que Puccini llega al final y no sabe qué hacer, cómo seguir, qué música escribir?
Quizá Puccini estaba obsesionado con que la ópera tenía que tener otro final o tenía que tener un final. Cuando algo muy oriental es que las historias no tienen final. Esto de que las historias empiecen y acaben y tengan punto culminante es algo muy nuestro, muy occidental. Y claro, quizá la historia y la música que había escrito le estaba diciendo, ¿esto se acaba aquí?
Puccini was an elegant man, a bomby man, but he was also a heavy smoker. He smoked at all hours of the day. If he was awake, he would be smoking. And tobacco took its toll on him. At 65, he was diagnosed with cancer of the larynx. By 1924, Puccini had visited several different doctors to no avail. His last hope was in Brussels, where he would travel in order to try what was then a revolutionary technique, radiation. Puccini and his son Antonio pulled into this station in November 1924. They were going to spend 6 weeks there for his treatment and then come home, all recovered. But the maestro never returned.
Puccini took a briefcase to Brussels with 36 pages of notes and annotations on Turandot. Before leaving, he had met with Arturo Toscanini, the director of La Scala, to finalize some details about the premiere. Everything was ready. He just needed to finish the score, to finish the last duet. It was his highest concern, his highest priority, constantly occupying his mind. But there was something that got in the way and kept him from composing. What was so powerful that it blocked him, that it blocked his creative abilities? Why he was unable to finish Turandot?
All because of Leo. Toward the end of the opera, Calaf is still obsessed with Turandot, and Leo finds herself forced to make a terrible decision. Leo takes her own life. Her death scene is the last scene that Puccini wrote before traveling to Brussels. The scene of the slave in love who sacrificed herself after declaring her love to Calaf. In the opera, Leo kills herself so that Calaf can live and love Turandot. But in real life, without Leo, Puccini doesn't know how to go on.
His most beloved character is gone and Puccini is lost. He knows that composing the final love duet between Turandot and Calaf is all he's got left to do. But how can you write anything else after Leo's incredible show of compassion? How could he make Calaf and Turandot love one another when the only decent character in the opera is dead? Puccini was incapable of finishing the opera. The last notes from Puccini's hand, the last thing the composer wrote in his life were these lines. Puccini ended his work and his life with a line of poetry. He got on a train with Leo, and he never came back. On April 25th, 1926, 2 years after Puccini's death, Turandot premiered here at La Scala in Milan. The opera was completed by composer Franco Alfano following Puccini's own drafts. But the night of the premiere, when the last note composed by Puccini was approaching, the director Arturo Toscanini from this very spot stopped the orchestra, turned to the audience and said, "The opera ends here because at this point the maestro died." Death was more powerful than art. Puccini was unable to finish the opera after Leo's incredible show of compassion. How could he continue? How could he go beyond? I don't know. That's why I'll do the same as Toscanini. Turandot ends here. Puccini ends here.